Welcome to the Stochastic MLB DFS Strategy Show. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Adam Scherer. You can find him on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And this show is sponsored by SoRare MLB, which is a digital trading card and NFT-based free-to-play MLB game. We'll talk about SoRare a little bit more later on. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Adam, how did yesterday go for you?
Pretty well. Got second on the night slate, so that was nice. Best day I'd had in a while. So yeah, yesterday went good. Can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, you can complain when you get second, though, right? I mean, that's like in some cases that's the worst, like getting second. And
yeah, I mean the worst is getting like fifth. You get like
sure,
your buy-ins back. But yeah, no, I mean I can complain that I didn't get first because Bryce Harper got a bullshit hit off of Josh Rojas. But
right.
No, I mean can't. I'll take a second every day.
Was Gunnar Henderson in your lineup?
No, it was the night slate.
Oh, he was. Yeah, it was on the night slate. There was a lot of people talking about how you got your home run pick right yesterday, Adam. Guess who also got his home run pick right yesterday? Kyle Schwarber also hit a home run.
First out of the game.
Yeah, exactly. And to be clear, and you don't get bonus points for making a bad pick. For making a pick who only has like an 18% chance of hitting a home run. To be clear. All right. I also see Gabriel said he held first on FanDuel slate for a good while with Baltimore and Philly stacks. Yeah, those were working out, but ended up in 17th. So yeah, not too shabby at all with 5 lineups, but it does hurt because the money is pretty different from first to 17th place. But still, good on you. Well done. We are going to start by taking a look at the lineup generator. No, sorry, the Sims tool. Take a look at the post-contest sims, just see what worked out yesterday. And what we're looking at here is not actually what did work out. These are the top lineups in terms of simulation. So like these are the lineups that we would have expected to do the best. And it's a bunch of pros right at the top. We have FJ Bourne, Rick 75, Ricky D, a lot of pros right here at the top. Not a big surprise to see pros put in lineups that looked really good. Of course, FJ Bourne has the highest simulated ROI, and then he finished in 19,000th place. So it doesn't always work out the way we expect it to. But let's see what the actual top lineup was here. Ben Cole, I don't see what the full username is here. Ben Cole something took it down. $100,000 last night. Always fun when we get those 100K nights. Hopefully we'll see more of those now that there's no NBA. I don't know that we necessarily will, but we can at least dream of these 100K top prize pools. Always fun to see. 1-800 Eddie actually did pretty well on this one. Good to see Eddie finishing in, looks like 5th place in the main contest. That's cool to see. Firedog 50, I think I know that name, maybe from chat. 3 Windy, this is our Chicago guy. 3 Windy 1 City 2. Yep, 3 Windy 1 City 2. Our Chicago guy finished near the top as well. So a lot of people doing pretty well. A lot of people we know doing pretty well here. But always a cool tool to look at to see what you would have expected from your lineups. How did the post-contest simulator view your lineups? And this is through the lens of the actual lineups that were in the contest. So this is, we do the pre-contest simulator. We do our best to match the field. We have projected ownership, that kind of stuff. We have the actual lineups here for the post-contest simulator. So it should give you a good idea of whether you actually made good lineups based on, the lineups you're competing against night to night. How close were you to other lineups? How unique were you, et cetera, et cetera. We have all that info. So this is a very cool tool for showing you how you would expect to do over, 40,000 sims, 50,000 sims, something ridiculous like that. Over the long haul, would you expect your lineup to make money? And it doesn't always line up with how things actually went day to day, but over the long haul, you should expect to. If you're making good lineups, you're going to make some money. All right. I think, and this is, by the way, I guess I should say, Adam, that we do have this new deal going on now where you can actually get the lineup simulator for $60 per week instead of $180 per month. So if you do just want to test it out, like we don't have any free trial offers, anything like that for this. But if you wanted to check out the Sims tool, it is, we have a cheaper price point now to get started for 1 week, $60. Best tool you're ever going to use. Most advanced tool for DFS in the entire industry. And Adam, I don't know if you heard, I was just informed this morning. I had no idea this is coming. We're going to have the PGA Sims tool available like in a couple hours, I think. At some point today, we're going to have the PGA simulator available. Had you been told that, Adam?
No, I haven't.
I had heard rumors that it was coming down the pike. I had no idea that it was like ready to go. Just learned that this morning. Nolan told me, hey, we're going to have the PGA Sims. Probably not going to have the info ready for you by your show, but give it a shout out. I shouldn't say I'm more excited about that than this. I think this is the MLB Sims tool is advanced because it has all the, has correlation, all that factored in. But I was already, I had success as an MLB DFS player. I suck at PGA DFS. Like it's the only sport that I'm down like 5 figures in and like $60,000 something in PGA DFS. So I could use the help. I'm excited about the PGA simulator. I know that you had your biggest day ever was in PGA, but I think we can all use the PGA simulator. Very cool to have that tool available. Today at some point we're going to have that available. So keep your eyes out for that if you're planning on playing some golf this weekend. All right. We do have 12 games to get through here, and I'll pull that up. First game we're looking at here is Toronto at Baltimore. We got your Orioles back at it today. Jose Barrios on the mound for the Blue Jays. Kyle Bradish for the Orioles. You think you're playing either of these pitchers today, Adam?
Probably not getting to too much. It's kind of similar to yesterday's matchup. Bradish isn't a bad pitcher, but obviously it's a very tough matchup against a good Toronto team that doesn't strike out a lot. But it's not a great park for Toronto power, given that most of their bats are right-handed. You can certainly still, get to them against Bradish, but not anticipating getting too much Bradish here. He is cheap at 6,200, so there's that, but still only pulling 1% ownership kind of suggests he's probably not really necessary here. And then for Barrios, you have seen him. He's better this year than he was last year, but does still typically struggle with left-handed bats. And 195 expected ISO to lefties, 354 expected WOBA to lefties this year. Not quite as bad as Chris Bassett was coming into yesterday, but still a really tough spot for somebody that has splits like that going up against a left-handed heavy Baltimore team in Camden Yards.
Okay. Adam, we went into the show with the plan of we're just going to talk about the night slate. This is a strategy show. And I said, if people ask for the early slate, I guess we can do that as well. And now we've had 3 people back to back asking, what about the early slate? Why are we going straight into the night slate? So maybe we'll get through this first. That doesn't make any sense. Should we just talk about the early slate now a little bit, and then we can come back to this main slate? I think that probably makes the most sense rather than breaking up the main slate. Let's get into the early slate just a little bit because we do have a few people showed up for it. It's just a 3-gamer, so we'll be quick enough to get through. I'm assuming you have not looked at it at all, Adam. We've got Spencer Strider. So this is a Spencer Strider slate. That is good to see. Yeah, so the early slate is just 3 games. It's Atlanta at Detroit. Apparently we have 2 games at Atlanta at Detroit today, so that's a game 1 on the early slate, along with Milwaukee at Minnesota, San Francisco at St. Louis. Do you think you're prepared enough to talk about this one, Adam?
I mean, I can do it on the fly. I'm making lineups for it right now.
Okay, perfect.
But
well, then we will give the people what they want. We'll start with the early slate, which is first game of the slate, Atlanta at Detroit. Spencer Strider for the Braves, Reese Olson on the mound for the Tigers. Do you think you're going to have any interest? I assume you're going to have some interest. What is your level of interest here?
Certainly very, very interested in Strider. I think that goes without saying. You're facing the worst offense against right-handed pitching in baseball. You're Spencer Strider. You strike out 40% of the guys you face, and it's a 3-game slate. I don't really know how you get away from Strider. I guess the case would be that he's going to be, 85% owned, and if he does somehow pitch poorly and you stack the Tigers, then you have a leg up, but not likely to be the route that I'm going. Not particularly interested in getting to Olsen. It is a 3-game slate, but 5-run implied total for the Braves. Really, really good offense. Lots of right-handed power. Mostly just interested in Strider as far as the pitching goes.
Okay. What about the bats in this game?
Braves look really good. Olsen, very limited time in the majors so far, and you just have a very dangerous Atlanta team. And then obviously outside of just hoping to get very lucky, no real interest in the Tigers.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Strider, Braves, Tigers, Olsen.
All right. 1 down. Second game on this early slate, Milwaukee at Minnesota. Colin Rea on the mound for the Brewers. Bailey Ober for the Twins. What's your level of interest in these pitchers?
Nice spot for Ober. Decent strikeout stuff going up against a Milwaukee team that does strike out a lot. Negative park shift for the Brewers as well. Only a 3.8 implied run total. So definitely interested in Ober. He is expensive at 9,700, but if you can get there, I still think paying up Strider is the priority, but if you can get to both, then great. Rea is pretty cheap, and Minnesota does strike out a lot. So, where you're paying down, I would rather go to Rea than go to Reese Olson.
Okay. So Rea ahead of Reese Olson in the rankings at the very least. All right. What is your level of interest in the bats here?
Minnesota's pretty interesting here because they're not very expensive at all. The most expensive hitter in their lineup on DraftKings is Correa at just 4,100. And they have a 4.7 implied run total. So, I just mentioned that if you're trying to get Strider and Ober, it could be problematic because they're both expensive. I'm sure you can do it with Minnesota. I'm sure a lot of people will, but they look like a good value team. They're cheap. They have high upside hitters, not the best park, but Definitely interested in the Minnesota bats. On the other side for the Brewers, less interested, still certainly playable on a 3-gamer, but Ober is a pretty solid pitcher. It is a negative park shift for the Brewers. So more interested in the Twins side.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Ober, Twins, Rhea, Brewers.
Do you know the answer to this question? Danny Guzman asking, does anyone know what scoring system Prize Picks uses for MLB fantasy points?
I couldn't tell you. I can't play Prize Picks.
Yeah, I don't actually know. I've never done the like fantasy points part of it. I think it's either DraftKings or FanDuel, but I'm not 100% sure on that. All right. Final game of this slate is San Francisco at St. Louis. Anthony DeSclafani on the mound for the Giants. Jordan Montgomery for the Cards. Any interest in these pitchers?
Yeah, 2 solid pitchers here, 2 solid offenses as well. But one thing working in DeSclafani's favor is that for most of his career, he's been much better against righties than lefties. That's been the case again this year, striking out 22.5% of righties, only about 12% of lefties. 158 expected ISO, 323 expected WOBA to righties, and most of the Cardinals lineup that you're worried about at least is right-handed. They do have Donovan leading off from the left side. You have Nolan Gorman hitting third, Carlson hitting sixth. Those guys left-handed, but Goldschmidt right-handed, Arenado right-handed, Walker right-handed, DeYoung right-handed. So it does, especially the Goldschmidt and Arenado pieces, it does help that DeSclafani is better against righties. On the other side, only a 3.9 implied run total for the Giants. Jordan Montgomery, very, very fair 8K price tag. He's not a great strikeout pitcher, and he's going to be dealing with a lot of right-handed hitters here. Almost entirely, but just a solid pitcher in a decent pitcher's park. It is 85 degrees, so you could certainly see the ball carry a little bit more, but as an SP2 on this slate, no issue with either of these guys, but Montgomery is going to look a little bit better.
Okay. And what's your level of interest in the bats here?
Still somewhat interested. Left-handed bats against DeSclafani are going to be the priority, but that's not to say if you're stacking the Cardinals not to play, Goldschmidt or Arenado, obviously, but Donovan, Gorman, Carlson are going to look pretty good. We have some value at the top of the lineup for San Francisco. They called up Luis Matos. He is 2K flat hitting second. So that's a pretty good value spot to get to. I know he is a highly regarded prospect, making his major league debut now. So batting second at 2K, that looks pretty good. At AAA this year, 116 plate appearances, 162 WRC plus, 475 WOBA. Again, PCL, I'm pretty sure. So kind of take it with a grain of salt, but still a 162 WRC plus. AA this year, 133 plate appearances, 133 WRC plus. Looks good. Steamer projects him rest of season for a 92 WRC plus, but at 2K flat, that's not the end of the world. So there is some value there. It's not the most appealing team to get to overall against Montgomery, though.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Montgomery, Cardinals, DeSclafani, Giants.
Okay. Would you play any bats against your pitchers on this 3-gamer?
Yeah, I have it set max 2.
Okay. Are you doing anything different with your stacks in terms of like 5-mans versus 4-mans, anything like that?
Not really.
Okay. All right. 3 favorite stacks on this slate.
Braves, Twins, Cardinals.
3 favorite pitchers.
Strider, Ober, and Montgomery.
Home run pick.
Acuna.
Seems like a good pick. Let's see here. Hang on. I'm gonna go with Julian, Edward Julian once again. Got to go back to the homer pick since I can't cheat and use the top batters tool. I'm just gonna go back.
So you're just taking my homer strategy, except you don't get to just have Gunnar Henderson on your favorite team.
That is true. It's a little harder for me. Yeah, it's a little bit unfair. I wish that we did. I guess is Joey Gallo playing today? I didn't even look. I already switched to the other slate. That would have been probably a better pick, but I like
Joey Gallo's batting 6th.
Oh, up to 6th. Okay. No, I'm gonna stick with Julian, the leadoff hitter. He's got some pop. All right. So that is going to do it for the early slate for us. We can now jump in and talk about the main slate. You already went through the pitchers on Toronto and Baltimore, but can you just real quickly, since we're like restarting the main slate, can you do it once again, just like quickly, your level of interest?
Not much interest in either one. Bradish is really cheap at 6,200 if you have to pay down, but doesn't really look like you're going to need to on this slate based on where ownership is projected to come in. And you also do in a later game, have Garrett Whitlock facing the Rockies for only 500 more. So that's where most people are going to go when they do pay down. Barrios, 8,600 is an okay price tag for him. We have seen him pitch better this year than last year, but he does still struggle with left-handed hitters, not to the extent that Chris Bassett does, but it is a similar spot where you have somebody that has, pretty sizable splits, gives up power to lefties, and now you're just getting nothing but lefties in one of the best left-handed home run parks in baseball.
Okay. I think that is a good enough synopsis of the pitchers. What's your level of interest in the bats in this Toronto-Baltimore game?
Yeah, pretty interested. It's kind of similar to yesterday. Like the Blue Jays come in with the higher top stack percentage because they have, I guess, better power hitters and all that. But I still like the Baltimore side more when you consider the matchup and most importantly, the park. It's one of the worst parks in baseball for right-handed power. That's not to say Springer, Bichette, Guerrero can't do damage, but it's just that much more likely that either they hit the ball hard and it's caught 370 feet away for an out, or it hits off the wall and you get 5 points instead of 14. Whereas the park's still great for left-handed power, and you're likely going to have 6 lefties in your top 7 again. I expect we'll see probably the same lineup as yesterday, where you have Henderson, Rutschman, Santander, O'Hearn, Hicks, Frazier, all hitting in the top 7. Austin Hayes, the lone righty, mixed in there. So I again, even though, top stacks tools on the Toronto side, I prefer the matchup for the Orioles.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Orioles, Jays, Bradish, Barrios.
Okay.
Bradish just because of the price.
Yeah. Stephen Lee was confirmed that on Prize Picks it is DraftKings points for hitting, FanDuel points for pitching. So we had a couple people confirm. So it's DraftKings points for hitting, FanDuel for pitching on Prize Picks. I also wanted to respond to Johnny Football's asked, quick question: the month of Platinum Plus for Hall of Fame, is there a time limit for me to sign up for it to kick in? I have no idea. I assume Adam doesn't know either. I think that's probably a better question for Lofty. I don't even know who would have the answer to that question.
Lofty probably knows the answer.
Lofty probably does know the answer, and I think that he has his DMs open on Twitter.
He definitely has his DMs open on Twitter because he tried to make fun of me the other day for not having mine open, and in reality, I do. I just don't answer them.
Perfect. Hit up Lofty at Lofty D on Twitter, I believe is his handle. I'm sure you follow Lofty already. Johnny Footballs, congrats, by the way. I saw that you binked last night. You've been doing pretty well lately, so that's pretty exciting. Good job there. All right. Second game on the slate, going back to this, Colorado at Boston. Austin Gomber on the mound for the Rockies. Garrett Whitlock for the Red Sox. Any interest in these pitchers? Yeah,
Whitlock, mentioned him a second ago. I think when you do pay down, this is probably the first guy you look to facing the Rockies outside of Coors. 3.9 implied run total. He's fine. He's not a great pitcher, but he's not terrible either. And the matchup is certainly good. 19.7% strikeout percentage, 4.09 xFIP so far this year. Perfectly fine for a $6,700 price tag against Colorado if you need the savings. On the other side, Gomber is only 5,100. He gets outside of Coors. All that's great. I still don't think I'm playing him.
Okay. Are we going back to the bats in this Fenway series again?
Yeah, I mean, 6.2 implied run total for the Red Sox. I will be going back. I don't have any confidence. They've burned me, the last couple of slates, but yeah. You should get more right-handed bats in the lineup today against Gomber. Ref Snyder will probably be in there. He does carry some pinch hit risk, but he'll be cheap hitting toward the top of the order. Adam Duvall being back is really nice. Gives you another right-handed power bat. He's going to look great. Justin Turner looks good. Kike's probably in the lineup. Arroyo will have the platoon advantage. And then obviously you're not going to ignore Yoshida and Devers, 2 left-handed hitters that just are very, very good. So Boston, once again, looks like a very good stack. And for what it's worth, lefties this year, 326 expected ISO, 460 expected WOBA against Gomber. He's been absolute garbage against everybody. It doesn't matter what side of the plate you're hitting from.
Does it matter where he's pitching? Like, do the home road splits affect that at all for Gomber?
I mean, I'm sure they affect it, but yeah, not to the extent that.
Right. He's still going to look bad regardless.
Right.
Okay. All right. How would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Boston 1, Whitlock 2, Rockies 3, Gomber 4. So outside of course, at home this year, Gomber's allowed a 448 WOBA, which is unbelievably bad. Away, he's still allowed a 360 WOBA. Like, he's still struggling. Away versus righties, only 72 batters faced, only a 295 WOBA, but again, 72 batters faced, 31 lefties faced outside of Coors, 510 WOBA. Not going to read into those numbers, but yeah, he's still not been good regardless of where he's pitching.
Okay. All right.
5.08 xFIP at home, 5.48 on the road.
Okay. So yeah, not a great pitcher. Probably not going to be in the MLB all that long.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised. I always thought he came up with the Cardinals, I believe, and I thought he was decent. And then he went to the Rockies, and it was like, all right, well, that's a terrible career choice. But
right.
Yeah, he's just kind of turned into being awful.
Yeah. Well, I guess going to Coors probably like affects your like confidence a little bit. I don't know, making excuses for us.
I mean, it could also, like, it's entirely possible the Rockies have their guys pitching a specific way to try and work in Coors, and it's not optimal outside of Coors.
Right. Yeah. Good call. All right. Next up, we've got.
He said Boston probably busts again, and then gave a reason. They probably bust again because it's baseball, and they're going to bust 85% of the time.
Right. They're just usually going to bust. That is the way. And I mean, we can look at the top stacks. Well, according to the top stacks, they're not going to be the top stack 87% of the time, which I guess isn't technically a bust, but yeah, they're going to fail more often than they're going to hit. All right. Next up, we have, I believe this is called the Subway Series, right? When it's in New York, yes. We've got the Yankees at the Mets. Garrett Cole on the mound for the Yankees. Justin Verlander for the Mets. Getting vintage with the pitchers here. Any interest in them?
Shit. I just realized I was wondering why my lineups were taking so long to build, and I didn't have any randomness on. Yeah, so definitely interest in both pitchers to some extent. Garrett Cole coming in at 11K. Tough matchup against the Mets. Their active roster is league average against right-handed pitching, but only about a 20.5% strikeout percentage. On the other side for Verlander, he certainly hasn't been as good this year as in the past, but I know we talked about it the last time he pitched. 20% strikeout percentage so far this year. It's not to say that he won't see improved strikeout stuff, or that he won't not see improved strikeout stuff, but it's very likely that the strikeout percentage comes up. It's unlikely he gets back to, the 30+% strikeout percentage we've seen in recent years, but expecting him to settle in around 25-26% is still very, very reasonable. That's what most projection systems expect. You get a nice matchup here against the Yankees without Aaron Judge. Not a ton of strikeouts in the lineup, but also a below average lineup in terms of WRC plus. Only a 3.8 implied run total for both teams. So certainly happy to get to Cole where I can, but I think he's more of just a kind of contrarian tournament play, pulling 6% ownership. You have Clayton Kershaw at a similar price point. You have Framber Valdez at a cheaper price tag. Castillo's on the slate. Glasnow's facing Oakland. Like, there's guys that are just fully deserving more ownership than Cole. They don't necessarily deserve to be 4 to 5 times as popular, but it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess like tonight's Zach Wheeler sort of. Where like yesterday, you knew Zach Wheeler was good. He can have a good game, but you had so many other good pitchers around him that it was just still tough to get to him. That's how Cole looks here. Verlander, even though he's not as good as Cole, is the easier one to get to just because he's $3,000 less expensive. There's not a lot that you love in his price range. So we actually have him pulling 20% ownership. We have him 7th in top 2 pitcher percentage. Every pitcher ahead of him in top 2 pitcher percentage is at least $9,400 on DraftKings. So Verlander probably is going over own. For example, Andrew Heaney is $400 more expensive, getting 1/6 ownership with basically the same chance of being a top 2 pitcher. But Verlander still deserves ownership here, just given the price tag.
Are all of the Mets pitchers just washed? Like Scherzer got rocked yesterday. I can't. Is Scherzer still good? I haven't.
Scherzer's still been pretty good. I mean, still not peak Scherzer, but he's still been fine.
Yeah.
Verlander's been worse than Scherzer. But yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you go spend a bunch of money on 40+-year-old pitching.
Right. As somebody who is almost 40, I kind of resent that, Adam. What's your level of interest in the bats here in New York?
Not very high. Yankees offense is just not the same without Judge. Mets are missing Alonso. We did get a bunch of runs scored here yesterday, which was surprising, but I don't think I'll really be going to it here.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Verlander, Cole, Mets, Yankees.
All right. Next up, we've got Pittsburgh at Chicago. I don't see a pitcher listed in Fantasy Cruncher for Pittsburgh. We've got Drew Smiley for the Cubs. I don't know if you have that up, but I'll take a look at what it is. But do you think you're going to be playing any pitchers from this game? Let's see.
I was replying to SMP in chat. He said that Verlander's swinging strike percentage was down. One thing about Verlander, and I know I mentioned it the other day, he hasn't had a very good string of good strikeout matchups this year. He faced Detroit, which obviously that's a good matchup. He got 5 Ks there. He got 7 against Cincy. Then he faces Tampa. Then he faced Cleveland. Then he pitched in Coors. Then he faced Toronto. Then he faced Atlanta. He did get a lot of strikeouts against Toronto anyway, but
yeah, it's a tough
yeah,
string there.
not the most strikeout friendly stretch of games there.
All right. Yeah, it's good. Good reasoning. Yeah, good context, as SMP says. Bert Bonnie says Boston facing a sweep makes me like them more. They'll pound Gomber. Yeah, I mean they should. Well, I guess we'll see. I don't see on DraftKings. We don't have a pitcher listed for the Pirates.
Looks like Osvaldo Bido, but he's not in the player pool.
Okay, so maybe we just that works easy enough then. Any interest in Smiley here?
He's like the perfect example of just a guy. 7,200. If you have to go to that price range, sure, he's getting 3% ownership. So I don't think you're going to have to get there all that often. Not a good pitcher, not a bad pitcher. He's just there. So far this season, 20.5% strikeout percentage, 4.6 xFIP, exactly 1 home run per 9 innings. Like, just one of the most uninteresting people to talk about, because like there's nothing bad about him. There's nothing good about him. He just shows up every 5th day and typically does the opposite of what I need him to.
Perfect. Just the kind of guy you want to see on a slate. You playing any bats here in Wrigley?
Cubs look pretty good. This guy pitching for Pittsburgh is 27, making his major league debut. 10 starts, 12 total appearances at AAA this year. Struck out 23.5% of hitters, but projection systems absolutely hate him. Now, maybe they're wrong. He has seen an uptick in strikeout percentage over the last couple of seasons compared to what he had done in the lower levels of the minors. That does always concern me a bit, because we know, especially with the increase in technology now, that pitchers are fully capable of just kind of becoming new pitchers during an offseason. So when you see a pitcher like this that, last year at AAA struck out 24%, this year at AAA striking out like 24%, and then you have the bat projecting him for a 16% K percentage, ATC projecting 18%, and those numbers are in line with what he was doing in A-ball, but that was 4 years ago. So I do think he's probably better than the projection systems are giving him credit for, but he's also probably not actually good. Just some middle ground there between absolutely awful and good. So I'm still happy to get to some Cubs bats against him. They're not particularly expensive. They have plenty of power. The wind does look like it's blowing either side to side or slightly in, and it's only like 65 degrees. So not great hitting weather, but still don't mind getting there. As far as the Pirate side, McCutchen, Reynolds, Hayes, those guys are going to be fine.
Okay. I was going to say my MLB DFS weatherman didn't say anything about the Wrigley Field game, which I figure there's always some kind of weather in Wrigley. So glad you could find that. All right. How about the bats in this game? Any interest there?
Same as 2 seconds ago.
Okay. Yep. I was definitely listening. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
This one's, I guess, the Cubs, then Smiley, then the Pirates, and then you can't play the other guy.
All right. Moving on to the next game. Actually, before we do the next game, we made it through 4 games already. The reason that I was listening very intently but missed that one thing is that I was pulling up SoRare, so we can talk about our sponsor quickly here. SoRare MLB. If you haven't started playing SoRare yet, you should get into it. I actually just wrote an article last night, published. I think it's been published already. I actually haven't checked if it's been published, but on how to play SoRare. So if you have not yet learned how to play SoRare, looked into it, I did write an article for us about how to play. It really is a lot of fun. The slates last Monday through Thursday and then Friday through Sunday. So you get 2 slates per week on SoRare. You can start playing for free. The common contest, which you can see my awesome common lineup there on the right. Those are the common cards. You're going to get common cards for free when you sign up. You're going to get, first of all, you get to choose a stud, and then they'll give you a bunch of random cards, but you can discard that. You can make your own choices from a big group of different cards within a salary cap, and then you can use those starting on Friday. That'll be the upcoming slate starts on Friday, and you can use them going forward. And if you want to pay, if you want to, up your game playing these limited contests, you can buy those on the market. You can win them in contests. I'm playing the limited contests. Those are the 2 contests on the left there are limited. Check it out if you haven't already. SoRare really is a lot of fun. As I said, you can get going for free. I did just put the link into chat. Use that link when you sign up. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. All right. We will move on because we do have a big slate to get through here. Next game on the slate, Los Angeles at Texas. Reed Detmers on the mound for the Angels. Andrew Heaney for the Rangers. Any interest in these pitchers, Adam?
Heaney's sort of interesting from a tournament standpoint. He hasn't been nearly as good as a strikeout pitcher this year compared to last year, but he is still striking out 24.5% of hitters. So he's still good, just not striking out a third of hitters like he was with the Dodgers. Still giving up power, 1.4 home runs per 9. So he's going to be risky. But the thing that stood out to me was that, and I mentioned it, we talked about the Yankees game. Verlander right now we have him with a 9.6% chance of being a top 2 pitcher at 8K, pulling 19.7% ownership. Heaney at 8,400, 9.2% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 3% ownership. Again, it's not a safe spot. There's plenty of power in the Angels lineup, but it's not like Verlander's safe either, because we can guess all we want that he's going to bounce back at least somewhat, but he doesn't have to. He could just be bad. So that gap in ownership is kind of interesting to me, where Heaney probably deserves a little bit more. Verlander probably deserves a little bit less. On the other side, really, really tough matchup for Detmers. He does have good strikeout stuff, much better strikeout stuff than most 7K pitchers do. So that is getting him a little bit of ownership just for the upside. 27.2% K percentage, 3.88 xFIP. He's a good pitcher, but does have a brutal matchup against Texas. So I think it's mostly, contrarian play in tournaments. The upside is there, but the projection is not going to be great. The floor is certainly non-existent.
Okay. Makes sense. How about the bets in this game?
The Angels are interesting just because of the power that Heaney gives up. Assuming Trout's going to be back today, you're going to have Ward, Trout, Rendon. Not sure about Drury. He was appealing to 1-game suspension, so not sure how that's going to go. But potentially Drury, Renfroe, all this right-handed power. And then, of course, Shohei Ohtani, who doesn't care what hand you throw with. So that's all pretty appealing. They only have a 4.2 implied run total, but he's just a pitcher where there's just a little bit more volatility. So that run total, not that it's misleading, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Not that they ever do, but when Heaney struggles, the ball just gets hit really, really far, and it's great for DFS. Whereas a lot of times you get a 4.2 implied run total, and you're facing a normal pitcher, and it's just like, oh, well, that could easily just be, they score 5 runs, 6 runs off of, singles and doubles. Obviously, you can do that against Heaney, but the chances are higher that when he struggles, he just gives up 14 points at a time. So I like the Angels for that reason. On the other side, Detmers is good, but Rangers also very, very good. Right now, they are pulling. Texas is 7th in top stack percentage at 5%, only about 2.8% ownership. They are expensive, so the value piece isn't really there. The Angels are 5th in top stack percentage, pulling 6% ownership. So both offenses look pretty good. I do think I would get to the Angels side first, even though they have the lower implied run total.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Angels, Rangers. Yeah. Heaney and Detmers are kind of like the same play. Like, good strikeout pitchers, tough spots. Detmers is cheaper. I guess Detmers, Heaney.
Okay. Makes sense. Jake Swell said that he almost took down the 5K knuckleball last night and finished in 16th place. We had a lot of people in chat and Adam all doing well last night. Good night for the team. Congrats.
To be fair, I got killed on that slate.
Oh, on the main slate, yeah. But congrats, Jake. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, always helps the bankroll there. Danny Guzman asked me, how has stacking in SoRare worked out for you? I've had kind of mixed results. I think both of the past 2 slates I've missed out on cashing by literally, I think it was 0.23 points in the most recent slate. I think it was 3 points the slate before that. So it's been kind of rough in terms of just missing the cut line. But I've also, cashed some with the stacking. I'm still unsure, but I think that stacking is still my preferred method. I still think that is the smart way to play SoRare in general, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just a bunch of one-offs because it's not just a single slate. It is, 3 or 4 days at a time. But in general, I still think stacking is probably going to continue to be my approach when possible. All right. Next game on the slate, we have Cincinnati at Kansas City. Ben Lively on the mound for the Reds. Daniel Lynch for the Royals. Any interest in these pitchers?
Not particularly. Lively has been solid so far. It's just really difficult to expect to continue. He's striking out 27% of hitters, 3.98 xFIP. He has allowed 2.3 home runs per 9, but has probably gotten pretty unlucky as far as that goes. Still a 4.5 implied run total for Kansas City. We don't really have much to go on with Lively because he spent most of the last few years in the KBO. Has allowed a 213 expected ISO to lefties, 208 to righties. So maybe actually hasn't gotten that unlucky in terms of the power numbers. The strikeouts have been there. Like I said, the expected WOBA numbers are perfectly fine. He just has had some power issues. So probably not going there, but at 6,800 against KC in Kauffman, it's not the worst tournament play, I guess. If you wanted somebody like in the same price range as Whitlock, but getting less ownership. For example, we have Lively at 9% to be a top 2 pitcher. We have Whitlock at 8.7, and we have Whitlock getting 4 times the ownership. So perfectly fine contrarian play, but still shouldn't have a ton of confidence in it. It's likely that he ends up not being very good long-term. Lynch, kind of the same thing, 6,500, 1% ownership, 6.5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. I do think I would go to Lively, Whitlock, both before Lynch, though.
Okay. Jake Swell says Gunnar Henderson looking like the AL Rookie of the Year. Do you make that bet, Adam?
No, I just tweeted for other people too.
Okay. Well, hopefully some of you tailed Adam on that. All right. So not a ton of interest, like some modicum of interest, but not a ton there on Cincinnati or Kansas City. The pitchers. Do you have interest in the bats then?
Yeah, the bats look good. Cincinnati coming in third in top stack percentage at 7%, 9% chance of being or 9% projected ownership. They're second in stack score because they're also relatively cheap. 7% chance of being the top value stack. KC is fourth in stack score. Only a 4% chance of being the top scoring stack, but an 11% chance of being the top value stack. So, yeah, they both look like good offenses to get to.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Cincy, KC, Lively, Lynch.
All right. Washington at Houston up next. We have Josiah Gray on the mound for the Nats, Framber Valdez for the Astros. What's your level of interest in these pitchers?
Valdez looks really good. So we know that the Nats are tough to strike out, but also not a very good offense. Framber Valdez is extremely good. We've seen better strikeout stuff from him this year than in the past, striking out 26.5% of hitters, still not allowing any power, only walking 6% of hitters, 2.86 xFIP, and he's not even the most expensive pitcher on the slate. He's cheaper than Kershaw. He's cheaper than Cole. We have him second in top 2 pitcher percentage at 20%. We have him only getting 24% ownership, which is 4th highest on the slate. So very, very interested in Valdez. On the other side, Josiah Gray, very tough matchup against Houston. He's a really interesting pitcher in general that I know I've talked about a lot about this year. He used to, in previous seasons, he had really drastic splits where he was very, very good at striking out right-handed hitters. He was very, very bad at striking out left-handed hitters and would give up an insane amount of power to lefties as well. This year, his power numbers are a lot more under control. 162 expected ISO to righties, only 145 to lefties, but it's come at the expense of him striking guys out. He's only struck righties out 17.5% of the time, lefties 22%. Tough matchup with Houston, not interested in Gray.
Okay. What is your level of interest in the bats in this game?
Somewhat interested in Houston just because it's Houston. They have power. But like I said, Gray has made adjustments to where he's not giving up as much of it. Houston's coming in 9th in stack score. They're relatively expensive. So, yeah, I mean, secondary stack, I think, for Houston. Washington against Valdez, I'm fully out on.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Valdez, Houston, Gray, Nats.
Jake Swell says, I think the worst thing in MLB DFS is paying up for a pitcher and that pitcher gets blasted. Might as well have clicked donate. Yeah, it was not fun for me last night. I was way under the field on Max Scherzer, but like midway through the night, I checked my lineups. I see like my top lineups, decided to check them, and they all had Scherzer in them. Like those are my best lineups. Happen to have Scherzer, even though I was like half the field. Never fun there. All right, Cleveland at San Diego. Aaron Savale on the mound for the Guardians. Michael Wacha for the Pods. Any interest in these pitchers?
Good matchup for Wacha. Not a good strikeout matchup, but good in terms of Cleveland can't hit, and it's in a friendly pitcher's park. 8,200 is a pretty fair price tag. He's only getting 3% ownership. He's another one where, I think Verlander is going to project the best in that group, but 3% ownership to Wacha, 20 to Verlander, and less than a 1 percentage point difference in terms of top 2 pitcher percentage. Wacha's just going a little bit under-owned relative to Verlander. That doesn't mean he's a better play. It just means that's a spot you can certainly look to be contrarian in tournaments. On the other side, Savali, 7,700. We only have him with a 4% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, not getting any ownership. Supposedly a tough matchup against the Padres. They haven't been a very good offense this year, but they do have a lot of talent. Not really a spot that I'm looking to get to.
Okay. What about the bets here?
Not much. If you wanted to make a talent play on the Padres, that's fine. And just, play Tatis, Machado, Bogart, Soto. Obviously, those guys are all really good, but not a good hitter's park. Supposed to be like 60 degrees again, 4.4 implied run total. Savali's not a bad pitcher. I think there's other spots I definitely prefer on this slate.
60 degrees in San Diego. Man, You guys should check out Minnesota. It's beautiful here in the summers. If you California guys, move out here to Minnesota. It's beautiful here. All right. How would you rank the four sides of the game?
Waka, Padres, Guardians, Savali.
Okay. Next up,
I
we have
hate the whole game.
Not a great game. So you're not targeting the San Diego game is the general takeaway.
I hope not.
Tampa at Oakland. We have Tyler Glasnow on the mound for the Rays. Luis Medina on the mound for the A's. Any interest in these pitchers?
Yeah, definitely very, very interested in Glasnow. 6 innings last time out against Texas, threw 84 pitches. So he's thrown 83, 88, and 84 pitches in his 3 starts this year. Probably not going to just suddenly start throwing, north of 100, but he's throwing enough where, he can get you through 6 innings. The strikeout stuff is excellent. It always has been. The only question with Glasnow is always his health, but when he is out there pitching, he's lights out, great strikeout stuff. Good matchup against Oakland. He's getting a ton of ownership, and he deserves to because he's only $9,400, striking out 31% of hitters so far this year, low to mid 30s in every season he's been healthy, essentially, at least since coming to Tampa. So, 40% ownership. He looks really, really good. Again, that ownership is probably a little higher than than is optimal, but you're also not building the optimal lineups in MLB. So,
right.
Very, very happy to get to him. Medina, I think I'm as low on Medina as I am high on Glasnow.
Okay. Don't need to get into Medina then. Not playing him. What about the bats here?
Tampa looks great. Medina is not a major league pitcher. The only thing that, and again, it's been the case this whole series, you are hitting in a terrible, terrible park. But 211 expected ISO to lefties for Medina, 266 to righties. Doesn't strike out a lot of guys. You have one of the best offenses in baseball in Tampa Bay. 5.4 implied run total in Oakland. Again, this is, I mentioned it being a bad park, but Vegas is aware it's a bad park. They still have a 5.4 implied run total. They still have one of the highest implied run totals on the slate. They are expensive, which is another, knock that and the park. But if you can get to Tampa, great. Even considering how expensive they are, we have them third in stack score behind only the Red Sox and the Reds.
Okay. How would you rank the four sides of the game?
Glasnow 1, Tampa 2. I guess Oakland 3, Medina 4.
Okay. Dude homie Manbra says it's been a notably cold spring all over the West Coast this year, probably because Eastern Inland is heating up like crazy, creating a lower pressure system at the coast. I don't understand how weather works, but I do know that if you live in a place like California where the weather's just not that great, Southern California, you probably want to have like a vacation home in somewhere like Minnesota where we have much better weather.
Okay. Yeah, that's like you just referred to Southern California weather not being that great.
Yeah,
but when you followed it up with Minnesota, I realized what was going on there.
Yeah. All right. Next game here we have Philadelphia at Arizona. Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Phillies. Merrill Kelly for the Diamondbacks. What's your level of interest here, Adam?
Not much. Suarez is too cheap at 5,600 just for his talent level, but he just continually seems like runs into tough matchups. I know a couple slates ago, I had a good amount of him against the Dodgers, and he pitched really well. But he just seems to keep running into these matchups, and it makes it tough to really want to get to him, even at the cheap price tag. 2% ownership, 5,600. If you have to pay all the way down, he's better than a $5,600 price tag. But it is a tough matchup against Arizona. On the other side, Merrill Kelly actually coming in with a 13% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, only 7% ownership. So a pretty solid tournament play. It's not the best matchup against the Phillies. Obviously, they have a dangerous offense, but we've seen Merrill Kelly. He's, for his career since he came over from, I think, Japan, he's been good at preventing runs and getting outs and not great at getting strikeouts, which has sort of made him somebody that in DFS ends up at these like weird price points where it's really tough to pay for him because the strikeouts aren't there, but he's priced for his run prevention. The strikeouts have been there this year. He's striking out 26.8% of hitters in addition to a 3.69 xFIP. So he is actually a good DFS pitcher now as well. Tough matchup. There are plenty of other good arms around him. Tyler Glasnow, in a vacuum, obviously I'm just taking Tyler Glasnow over Merrill Kelly, given the matchups. Obviously I'm taking Luis Castillo over Merrill Kelly. This is why Kelly's only getting 7% ownership. But if you have that lineup where it's like, I'm stacking 2 of the most popular offenses, I need to be different somewhere, then by all means, turn that Glasnow into Kelly in that lineup.
Okay. Makes sense. What about the bats here?
Not a lot. I mean, it's two offenses that are good, so like you can make that case, but there's nothing I specifically want to target.
Okay. How would you rank the four sides of the game?
Kelly, Suarez, D-backs, Phillies.
Phillies last. All right. I guess, yeah, tough matchup. All right. Miami at Seattle. We have Uri Perez on the mound for the Marlins, Luis Castillo for the Mariners. You playing these pitchers, Adam?
Yeah, Castillo looks good here. You know, we've talked about it a lot recently, but Miami's been a bad team against right-handed pitching this year. About a 20.5% K percentage on their active roster, but that's skewed by Luis Arraez striking out literally 5% of the time this year. There are some strikeouts to be had further down in the order. Sub 3 implied run total. Great pitcher's park. Great pitcher in Castillo. Striking out 30% of hitters this year, 3.25 xFIP. Really, really like getting the Castillo. Perez on the other side. Strikeout stuff's there. One of the top pitching prospects in baseball. Not a great matchup against the Mariners. Marlins also haven't been letting him go very deep into games. I'm double checking now, but I know as of last start, still hasn't gone more than 5 innings. He's gone exactly 5 innings in 4 of his 6 starts, and then he's gone 4 1/3 and 4 2/3. So he's the kind of guy where if he were like, 7,500 or something, I'd be pretty interested. But it's very, very tough to pay $9,000 for Perez when the competition essentially in that price range is, Luis Castillo, Merrill Kelly, Tyler Glasnow, that all just have significantly longer leashes, and they're all better at this point in their career.
Yep, makes sense. Sportswiz was laughing at me saying that I don't know how weather works, but then as he says, thankfully we have computers to do all the heavy. It's just like projections for me. Like I don't need to learn how to do this because there are already really smart people trying to figure this out for me, and they're like, why should I spend the time trying to figure out how weather works when people can just tell me what the weather's going to be every day? And Arnold Lane points out it's okay. Most weathermen don't know how weather works either. That's also a good point. Even the people who have spent a lot of time on it. It's just so tough to predict the weather. And 1-2 says weather is fake. Yeah, that's also, maybe that's true. All right. What's your level of interest in the bats here, Adam?
In Seattle?
Yep.
Yeah, I had to figure out where we were. Pretty close to non-existent. The Mariners are the side I would go to if I go to one. You're still getting plenty of upside with Rodriguez, France, Hernandez, Kelenic, Suarez, Raleigh. Mike Ford came through last night with 2 homers, but still a really, really tough park to hit in. A talented pitcher on the other side on a slate where there are plenty of good hitting spots. I'm not really interested in the bats.
All right. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Castillo 1, Mariners 2, I guess, just because Perez is 9K. Perez 3, Marlins 4. If you wanted to argue Perez over Mariners, that's fine, but it's just hard for me to envision a lot of lineups where I'm paying 9K for Perez.
All right. I didn't realize we've made it through all except for one game, Adam. We're going through this a lot quicker than I was expecting to. So we do have a chance to really quickly look at BetPro, which again, Adam, you do a daily video on BetPro. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So you should check out Adam's video on BetPro every day. Here's just a little glimpse at it right now. Fantastic tool that we have. This is a projections-based system. So using the projections that are created by some of the best DFS players of all time, they're letting you use their projections against sportsbooks here. Every bet, they show you where you can find the best bets on the board, how often those bets are expected to win, what the expected EV is, how much of your bankroll they would recommend putting on. It's a really powerful tool here. Check out Stochastics BetPro if you haven't already. And again, it's showing you, you can look at lines across different books here. You can find the best books for each bet. Fantastic tool. Check it out if you haven't already. We'll get back to it. We have just one game left, Adam. I'm impressed that we made it through, especially because we did it early. So I do 15 games here. Final game we're going to talk about here is Chicago at Los Angeles. Mike Clevenger on the mound for the White Sox. Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers. What's your level of interest in the pitchers?
Kershaw looks great. 3.1 implied run total for the White Sox. He is first in top 2 pitcher percentage at 21%. Very much in the same ballpark as Valdez and Castillo. He's getting 32% ownership, which is basically tied with Castillo for second most, just behind Glasnow. So certainly happy to get to Kershaw. Still a very, very good pitcher at this point in his career. 30.3% K percentage, sandwiched between Glasnow and Castillo this year. 2.97 xFIP is better than every pitcher on the slate except for Valdez. Really, really good pitcher. On the other side, Clevenger, brutal matchup against the Dodgers. 18.9% K percentage this year, 5.4 xFIP. Not really the guy that I want to be paying down for.
Okay. What about the bats in this game?
Dodgers look pretty good. They're expensive, which makes them a little bit less appealing, but they're still coming in 8th in stack score, 6.5% chance of being the top stack, just shy of 2% chance of being the top value. Clevenger, again, has struggled this year. 248 expected ISO to lefties, only 131 to righties with a 306 expected WOBA. Strikeout percentage against righties is 7 points higher than lefties. So sort of like we had talked about yesterday with Lance Lynn, you can certainly play Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, Will Smith if he happens to be in the lineup. But the guys that I think really are going to look good, Freddie Freeman in particular, and then whatever other lefties are in there. Not sure what Muncy's status is, but Hayward's cheap, Outman is cheap, Peralta's cheap. Like there will be some left-handed power in this lineup.
Okay. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Kershaw by a mile, Dodgers like a mile below Kershaw, but a mile ahead of everything else. I guess Clevenger because hitting's really hard, and then the White Sox.
Okay. I realized I've just put the link for BetPro into chat if you want to check it out. Samuel B says, yep, I wait for that video by Adam on BetPro every day. Yes, I'm sure it's having some success. Check out Adam's video and check out BetPro. I just put the link into chat. It's also in the description of this video if you're not watching live. All right, so we have made it through all of the games, Adam. On the main slate, 3 favorite stacks.
Boston, Cincy, Tampa, with the caveat that Baltimore, once again, doesn't grade out well. I probably won't get to them because of my process being data reliant, and then I'm just going to be pissed off when they hit 5 home runs.
You can adjust, right? You can
yeah,
tell it that you like them more.
Yeah, I don't, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably in the long run smart to not adjust. Just go with the data analysis, but data approach. All right. 3 favorite pitchers.
Glasnow, Kershaw, Castillo. Those guys are all relatively expensive. If you have to go mid-range, I think it's Verlander. If you have to pay down, I think it's Whitlock.
All right. Home run pick. And reminder, you don't get bonus points for making a bad pick here.
Yeah. I'll go Duvall.
Ooh, you got number 2 on the board in terms of home run odds. 27% chance of Duvall hitting a home run. I'm going to go with top on the board is Kyle Schwarber. I just got the home run out of Kyle Schwarber yesterday. I don't love the matchup with Merrill Kelly. He is top on the board by a good amount, though. I'm going to go away from the data. I'm going to go down to number 4 on the board, which is Vlad Guerrero against Kyle Bradish. It's going to be my home run pick for tonight. All right, Adam, that's going to do it for this show. I think that we answered all the questions, all that stuff. What else you got going on today? Any final words?
BetPro video article will both be out relatively shortly. I'll be back for the deeper dive later.
Okay, perfect. I'll be back for live before lock later. I'll have my lineup generator video coming out this afternoon as well. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for this past hour. If you haven't done so, please do hit the like button. Helps us out quite a bit. We will see you later on in the day. Good luck.